One of the things I'm most excited about was some people in the first year were like, we have a TEDx in Fort Wayne. I was really proud of that because we had beat so many other cities to the punch. We were kind of early adopters to this concept here in Fort Wayne. So that was one of those, it was like, yeah, right, Fort Wayne's cool.
So talk to me about how the difference between TEDx presenters, say, and your normal presenters.
There's no podiums. There's no note cards. We highly discourage it. If you absolutely have to, it's better that you can stay on track with some notes. But this is your TED Talk. This is your TEDx Talk. So how do you do this? You've got to practice and rehearse. You've got to make sure that you've got it down so you can say it forwards and backwards. So the idea is that this is the talk of your life, and you need to be rehearsed and ready to do that. And you don't get a podium to stand behind. You're out there. It's kind of casual. Speakers might wear flip-flops. It's very informal. It's not a business setting, and very much a departure from some of. I think since TED Talks have become prominent, all sorts of other events have mimicked aspects of the TED Talks. So I think you're seeing more casual conferences and things like that, especially around idea-centric kind of creative groups. But I think TED was one of the first that really kind of did a lot of that stuff. We usually pick an overarching theme, which is very broad and very general, but it's a concept that we want them to focus around. And then we give them more specific things. Maybe the youngest speaker locally, I don't know about in general, but we had a guy named Nick Arnett, who was a high school senior. It was our first year doing the TEDx event. He was a senior. And my favorite moment was he was there for most of the event, and he says, hey, I really hate to leave and ditch out, but I got to go to prom tonight.
Oh, my gosh.
And so here's this kid who's just well beyond his years in terms of maturity, and he's just taken a very different path. It's a lot of fun to follow his story.
How do you decide who's going to be a speaker and who hasn't quite made the cut?
Yeah, it's hard. Both the head and heart have to come together. And so I've got to see that they have something to actually talk about, but I got to hear the heart.
How many of those talks are story-focused?
I think they're all story-focused. I think that's part of what makes them different. They're very much about this bigger picture story, about life. So there's stories about a revelation, perhaps, or maybe it's a personal revelation. There was an artist who spoke at the TED event I went to, and he talked about this, how constraints are beautiful. How when he was a starving artist, he was so much more creative than when he all of a sudden had all the things he would ever want to be an artist.
What have you gained from doing this?
Well, it's a nonprofit event, so I can't financially gain. What I guess I gain is stories and inspiration. It's probably opened doors in some senses. I think it puts a stake in the ground to say I actually care about Fort Wayne and I want to make a difference. So I don't know that I'll always live in Fort Wayne. I think Fort Wayne's a fantastic city, but as long as I'm here, I want to make it a better place.